Good morning, everyone. I'm John Newquist, and we're going to talk about global harmonized systems today. Just to let you know, I'm going to record it so we can put this on YouTube. Just type in chat on the answers, and I want to let also that no one that gave the test questions to me, or I take these test questions because I've taken all the way to the BCSP test. I rewrite the questions. Some of the things like this symbol here, is the answer. So there's only so many ways you can rewrite a question for something like this. But I do it. I don't use any of the BCSP questions. I just rewrite them. So upon taking this, you'll be equipped to articulate the specific topics outlined in all the tests. It's in the 6 major certification tests for safety and different domains. In the BCSP Facebook group, you can type in ASP domain GHS, and you can get the sample questions we put up there for people. Also, this will be the 20th YouTube video. We'll start out with a knowledge check. What is GHS? Global Harmonized System. B, Global Health and Safety. C, Global Health Standards. D, Global Hazard Systems. And you're right, it is a global harmonized system. In the old days, go back before anybody had safety and health rules, such as OSHA started in 1970, you didn't have a right to know the chemicals. They didn't even know the hazards of the chemicals. And in our area in Illinois, we had a town called Ottawa that's just south of me. A company called Radium Dow took radium metal and oil and made radium paint. And they would use it to paint the instruments on aircraft so you could fly at night. A watch, you would glow in the dark like we see here. They hired the women right out of high school, and they would paint, 6 hours, 10 hours a day for 6 days a week. And when the brush gets dull to paint those little fine markings, they would put the tip of the paintbrush in their mouth and try to straighten it out. And then the radiation from the radium started rotting out their jaw, and their jaw would turn black and have to be removed. I actually talked to one of the women about 15 years ago, and she said, I never put my, paint in my mouth because I was just thinking it's not going to be good. I don't know how toxic it is. They didn't have any data sheets back then. And she said, I remember people painting their face with it and their teeth with it, so they have glow in the dark teeth. And I never did that, and that's why I'm alive. There's a lot of chemicals that cause problems, but I bring up DBCP because not always is it going to kill you. Dibromochloropropane was used on crops, particularly citrus crops, all over the world. At Occidental plant that made it, all the workers were sterile. 39 men, all sterile. And, this started a lot of lawsuits. And I remember the person on video deposition, who was one of the key scientists out there, said, yeah, I read the Dow Torkelson study in the 60s, and they talked about the sterility of rats with this chemical, and, and it would cause shriveling of the testicles. And heck, I missed it. We missed it. We never thought the shriveling testicles would cause sterility in men. Yeah, it shrinks 90%. You wonder why people are sterile. Well, the workers, sued and they got some money. But, how many people worldwide? Because they didn't tell people what to wear with this. You didn't have a right to know what any of the hazards. You didn't know the Torkelson study was there. You get this chemical, your blue jeans and T-shirt. Next thing you know, it absorbs through your skin like all the other pesticides. And guess what? You're sterile too. Start with a knowledge check. What is this symbol? It looks like a little black circle with 3 curved triangles equal part on this. Is this radiation? B, ozone? C, toxic? Or D, caution? Everybody seems to know what this one is. Radiation. So the OSHA standard started in 1985, and if you go before that, states like Illinois, where I live, and Massachusetts, California started having their own laws saying that you had to have a data sheet, that it had to be a certain amount of information in it. They had to tell you what the ingredients are. The workers had to have a right to know. And it was important because, like, my dad worked with this chemical cleaner to spray electronics, and next thing you know, his hands are going numb, and if you ask for the data sheet, it would just say trade secret. You wouldn't have the right to know what that's making your hands numb. And so next thing you know, the chemical companies are saying, hey, I can't have 5 different data sheets or 50 data sheets for each state. We're going to, get one law, and it passed by Congress. And they created the rule that they have to have programs, training, data sheets, and written program. So what's the purpose of hazard communication? I would word it chemical hazard communication. Train employees in the first aid procedure. B, to inform employees of the potential hazards in the workplace. C, to provide employees with emergency response plans. D, to ensure employees are wearing proper PPE. It is B, to inform employees of the potential hazards. I would revise that question to put chemical hazards, because you wouldn't talk about electrical hazards as chemical hazard communication. GHS came in, started being proposed around about 2009, 10, and then came in law in 2012. It harmonized the criteria for classifying substances and mixtures. They used a different numbering system for particularly the flammables and toxics. They created 9 pictograms. We can see 5 of them right here. And I liked it. When I first started thinking, nobody's going to look at the pictograms. But that's all people look at. And I look at data sheets real quick. If I want to scan them, I want to look for this symbol because this is not good. Health hazard one right here with a little black silhouette. HazCom, again, they're going to require written programs, labels, safety data sheet, and worker training. This pictogram is what hazard? It looks like a flame. Is it for fire, B, oxidizer, C, health, or D, explosive? Just to give you a background, I've never asked a worker and they didn't know what that was. If any symbol they know is that one. And you're right, it is fire symbol. It deals with flammables, pyrophorics, where it can self-ignite. It can emit a flammable gas. It can be self-reactive. But, a lot of chemicals. Gasoline is the most common one that everybody knows. It's a flammable chemical. Now, what they did for health and other physical hazards, but for the health hazard side, one became the worst. And it's something they would label toxics as, how much milligrams, micrograms to kill, the white mice or whatever they're using. They went into, the big one I think is important, is carcinogenicity. Human positive cancer 1A. When you see that on a data sheet, 1A means it's going to be cancerous to humans. And then 1B, possibly, and animal positives a 2. So anything you start to see category 1s on, they're pretty bad, toxic-wise or corrosive-wise. Under GHS, which category is the most toxic? Category 1, 2, 3, or 4? And we just covered it, so it is category 1. Physical hazards was a big howl. Flammable liquids went from class 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2 and 3 to flammable category 1, which is the old 1A, 2, which is the old 1B, 3, which is the old 1C, and category 4, combustible liquids. It doesn't require combustible liquids to have the flame symbol, which is a mistake, because I have several people who use combustible liquids and got ignited and got themselves burned pretty bad, because if they would have saw the fire symbol, maybe they would have realized maybe this is going to catch on fire. I think eventually you'll see combustible liquids like diesel fuel, kerosene, and others be given a fire symbol. But they put down other things such as flammable aerosols. Now there's the new GHS revision will be like flammable aerosols 1A. What's the objective of GHS? A, standardize the criteria for end users of chemicals and other hazard materials. B, establish a classification system for health, physical, environmental hazards, safety, data sheets, and labels. C, ensuring proper packaging, handling, transportation, and use of chemicals. D, facilitating hazardous spill cleanup, medical protocol, and remediation discharge. Accidental discharges. This is one of those things, there could be a lot of them that are kind of right, but there's the best answer, and that's what we're going to do. We know we're not going to talk about the spill cleanups, even though there is spill cleanups in a data sheet. But it's really going to be, as you got correctly, be a classification system for physical, health, environmental hazards, safety data sheets, and labels. One of the things, too, if you're stuck between two answers, and it's one of these long answers, choose the longest one. That's usually going to be right. Just a tip in taking tests. How long do you have the data sheets for? Well, under OSHA's Access to Employee Records and Medical Standard 1910-120, or 1020, I keep on saying 120, you have to have the data sheet for 30 years because it's an exposure record, because we might have cancer 30 years later. The health hazard, this means cancer. Carcinogenicity means cancer. Immunogenicity means your genes are going to get damaged. You're not going to become the X-Men. Reproductive toxicity could kill the baby. And then, of course, you could be sensitized when you breathe it, you know. And then, of course, it can target any of the organs, liver, brain, lungs, etc. And then, of course, it can cause, you know, cells to mutate that are not so good. Exclamation mark. This is what they came up with for the irritant. 99% of the time I look at this, it's going to be an irritant. It can cause skin sensitization. That means you get used, you know, near it, the vapors can cause you to break out, even though you're not at a high level. It can cause narcotic effects, irritant to your respirator. It can cause also ozone layers damage. This pictogram, the black silhouette with the white star, is for A, health, B, toxic, C, corrosive, D, poison. You're correct. It is the health hazard. You are going to get at least one pictogram, usually on a test, if not three. Gas under pressure, could it be this symbol? Pretty simple. I thought pretty obvious that these are under pressure if you ever open up one of these cylinders, but that's what the UN committee in 2010 said. Yep, we want to have that in there because people sometimes don't know. Corrosive, burning the metal on the left, burning your hands on the right. Wow. Not good. Corrosive, going to cause physical skin damage, going to burn you. When you have this symbol, you must have an eye wash within 55 feet or 10 seconds by the ANSI standard. Exploding bomb, you're not going to see it unless you see explosives. Even stuff that could, you know, sometimes cause a problem, like ammonia nitrate, they may not see an explosive symbol because it's a citrus crop fertilizer. This symbol will be on ammonium nitrate. It's an oxidizer. What it is, when I ask people, they don't know what it is. It's the flame, big flame. Well, for oxygen, it's going to release oxygen. But ammonium nitrate looks like citrus crop fertilizer or white sugar, powdered sugar. When you heat it, it releases a lot of oxygen. So when a ship was in fire in the late 40s in Texas City, the ship blew up when the oxygen got released, when it melted. And all of a sudden, we go from a fire to a detonation, and it killed 500 people in Texas City. The ship anchor was found 2 miles inward. Timothy McVeigh used a box truck filled with fuel oil and powdered ammonium nitrate and blew up the Murrow building, killed over 100 people. In Beirut, they had a warehouse of 200,000 pounds of this ammonium nitrate stored, and the ship, 5 years ago now, was on fire. The heat was intense. It melted it, and it devastated instantly. Anybody within 150 feet was vaporized. People died a mile away from the debris and explosion. A massive amount of damage. It looked like somebody dropped a massive bomb. 100 years ago, they found out skull and crossbones. People understood what it means, poison. I was talking to somebody today. They found a can of little lubricating oil from the 60s, small little bottle, and it had that symbol. Warning, don't drink, will be fatal. Well, you got to tell people don't drink oil because somebody said, I don't know what it tastes like. Not me. Training in the hazard of the chemical is when blank and when a new chemical is introduced. This is a question that's very common. Every other test seems to have this one. Annually, quarterly, every 3 years, initially. It is D, initially. You do orientation. You should tell the people about the chemicals and the pictograms, the labeling, and then when you bring a new chemical in. A lot of people will cover it every year just because they don't want to try to, miss that somebody didn't get through orientation. Because remember, sometimes some people get past orientation. In the OSHA rules, you'll have a written chemical hazard communication program. It's required to be in writing. It tells who's going to implement the program. And you're going to have a list of all your chemicals at your site. And when you look at OSHA most cited items last year, fiscal year 2023, hazard communication written program is the number 2 most cited. Did you train your people in the hazards of the chemicals? No, that's number 3. And then if you go all the way down into the number 10, did you have your safety data sheets accessible during any shift? So if you've got a service that provides the data sheets, you must be able to access that at all times during the night if you have people that are working second and third shift. So, the OSHA will ask the worker, show me how you get the data sheet. Hopefully it's not some password from a manager who may not be in there. So you have to be able to look at it. You can keep paper copies. Some people do. Some people, have both. Written hazard communication is comprised of several elements including labeling, type of labeling, safety data sheet management, and training information. What additional elements should be included? A, identification of emergency response personnel. B, a list of known chemicals in the workplace. C, quantities of hazardous chemicals on site. D, reportable quantity requirements. The answer is B, list of known chemicals in the workplace. In process safety management and risk management procedures by EPA, you must have the chemical quantities as well as a role and responsibilities of your emergency response people. The official 9 elements, we didn't talk about this one. Dead fish and dead trees. What does that mean? You're right. Going to be aquatic hazard or danger to the environment. So when a chemical company makes a product, they must put the identifier on it. This is methylene chloride, signal words, danger, or warning. What are the hazards? This chemical can cause cancer. This chemical can cause irritation. A precautionary statement, wear safety goggles, wear gloves of nitrile type. The name and address of the company. The knowledge check, which represents the exclamation mark. Fire, toxic, irritant, other. For secondary containers like this, which contain hazardous substances, there's an OSHA interpretation from June 20th, 2017. You can type that date and talk about secondary containers, you'll find it. But it says the section on labeling requires the label to include product identifiers like ink remover and words and pictures and symbols that convey the hazards of the chemicals. I always like pictograms because, almost all the data sheets today have pictograms, but you could use HMS, NFPA diamond, and other methods that meet this interpretation. Now, I had asked OSHA when it came out, can I just make the border black instead of red? And they said no. Has to be a red border. So you can get a Sharpie, you can draw a red diamond on it, and you can draw your symbol if you're good. Otherwise, go buy a sticker or print a sticker out and then put it on the label, and that'll be fine too. Because remember, like I said, everybody looks at the stickers now. You can go back to the data sheet. NFPA came up with this NFPA diamond, they call it, way before OSHA even started. And it had 4 different areas in it. The blue was the health hazards. 4 was the worst. Fire, class 1A was 4. Gasoline is normally a 3. Reactivity is in yellow. 4 means it could detonate on contact with the air, Then they would have other symbols like no water to fight it, because obviously if you put it on, it makes it worse. We talked about the radiation symbol, and they talked about acids, oxidizers, and alkalis. This pictogram represents which hazard? It looks like a fire with a circle on it. Fire, B, toxic, C, irritant, D, oxidizer. Answer is D, oxidizer. HIMS takes the NFPA diamond, puts it in a bar, and then adds what kind of PPE would you possibly wear for it? Safety glasses, respirator. Again, alternative labels, you can go in and update them. You can keep them at your facility, but you still have to train on the original 9 pictograms, and you have to train on, you know, the data sheets and the labels. Under the NFPA diamond, which color represents the reactive chemical? A, blue, B, green, C, red, D, yellow. And we know from experience that red is the fire one, so it's not C. It is indeed yellow. And that's actually one of the ones I took when I took the SMS test, I think it was. That was, you know, didn't show you the diamond, you had to know what the colors are. So again, the blue is the health, the red is the flammable, reactive is instability hazard is in there. And they also had, you know, reacts violently with water and, of course, radiation symbols. Safety data sheet is 16 elements, and they're going to ask you about that on some tests. You know, when I say it's common, like 1 out of every 3 people taking the test will get that question. Going to have information on what's in it, the first aid, how you're going to fight it, how you're going to handle it. I think it's important in PPE. Then you're going to have other elements such as toxicological information. If they've got it, current studies, they have to put them down. And they have to tell other things like date of preparation or last revision. I use that a lot because I go in there and I see data sheets that are 20 years old because nobody's asked for a new one, you know. So if we go into a sample chemical for methylene chloride, section 3, which is our, you know, our health hazards, it says it depresses the nervous system, irritation, actually sucks the fat out of your skin, irritates your eyes, can cause nausea, headache, vomiting, numbing and tingling in the arms and rapid heartbeat, loss of consciousness, and death. Wow. And we just go to the carcinogenicity explanation. Methylene chloride is listed on the IARC and NTP carcinogen list. They don't tell you carcinogenicity means cancer. They don't say this will cause cancer. It's listed on the National Toxicological Program and the International Agency of Research Cancer list. They don't even tell you what those acronyms mean. So they don't want you to sit there and kind of know that it causes cancer, because you might not buy it then. You might buy something else to take off the ink. Pesticides, I just show some examples of it. If you got an organophosphate, atropine must be administered as early as possible, could save lives if given enough time and adequate dosages. That doesn't mean anything to me. So I asked, you know, top paramedic BLS instructor what it means. He says, well, patients with organophosphate require atropine far in dose of medical practice. We keep 2 tubes of atropine on an ambulance, and you need 10 tubes for this stuff. Wow. Remember, it absorbs through your skin. That's how it kills insects. It's not going to be good for you. And, you know, they'll, you know, atropine should get your pulse rate up. They got to tell you that you're going to go from 70 to 100, and that's what they want in this thing because they're trying to give you nerve agent antidote. And then, of course, if you're unconscious, you know, they might have to get stuff in your stomach called bicarbonate solution and activated charcoal to help absorb it. How many sections to the safety data sheet? A8, B10, C14, D16. It is 16. Sodium hypochlorite, we know is bleach, 3% sodium hypochlorite, 97% water. We get our pool chemicals. You'll see the corrosive symbol like you see in the photo. Now we're 50% sodium hypochlorite and 50% water. It's now a corrosive, not an irritant. Chemical resistant gloves must be worn under the eye protection section. Skin protection, wear a full body suit, wear boots, wear gloves. Then if it's above the PEL for chlorine, which is 1 part per million, which is really, really low, wear a NIOSH approved respirator. Wow. and then tell you the proper gloves are neoprene, butyl rubber, and so on. You can think of anybody pouring pool chemicals for a hotel or a gym. They're not wearing this stuff at all. They're just wearing blue jeans and t-shirt. They don't even have eye protection on it, which is no good. Employees are trained initially when the new chemicals are introduced, and then you'll talk about the pictograms. You got to cover the pictograms, and then you'll tell them where the data sheets are able to get online or in a book, and then what kind of protection you're going to wear for our chemicals, and how we use the labeling system in our facility. Under GHS, what are the signal words? Caution and warning, A. B, warning, danger, caution. C, danger, warning. D, danger, caution. Danger warning, it is deed C. In summary, you want to get information and update your written program with all the in-house chemicals you have. Make sure you have the ability to have the data sheets available, either putting them in a book or getting a service that provides that. Make sure your workplaces are labeled properly. If you got 10 secondary containers, make sure they got the name and the pictogram. And make sure you cover your employees' training. You got to audit them. When's the last time we brought a new chemical? Well, we covered that chemical in the 2024 training we did in August. Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much for coming. Next month we'll do another topic. If you got a suggestion, please do it. I'll put this on YouTube today. Thank you very much.